Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning.
Hi, Robert. My name is Gabriel Jung, and I am a producer and editor from NextShark. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today. So I want to get right into it and start with a question on if you could tell me a little bit about your role within this film and what it means to be a stunt coordinator. What do you do?
So my role on this film was as a supervising stunt coordinator and second unit director. And what that means is that I'm brought in to kind of work with the director in two roles. One is to help design the action and elevate the words off the page to help sequences come to life on screen. Now that goes for me from a second unit director standpoint. It's me writing sequences, pitching them to Matt and the director and producers, and going through different iterations to make sure we're hitting all the points that need to be made, and then storyboarding, working with previs to design action sequences, also shooting stunt viz where we're pitching fight sequences or action sequences. So that is from the second unit director side. So it's much more on a creative visual sense. And there is kind of a gray line there, because as the supervising stunt coordinator, my job is also to do that. However, the other side of that is also to do the administrative side of doing budgets, doing schedules, hiring stunt performers, and making things safe for everybody on the day. So not only do I have to do a creative job, but I also have to do the safety side of the job. And sometimes those two can conflict, but I've been very fortunate along my journey to really kind of figure out ways through movie magic on how to execute things to make them look real in camera, and also to be able to have the ability to train cast to allow them to do certain sequences themselves. So it's a kind of a twofold job, but yeah, it was a
Sounds
very,
great.
very exciting and fun job to do.
Yeah, that sounds really fantastic. And also now you've been in this industry for nearly 3 decades, and you've worked with a whole range of like cult classics, from like Snakes on a Plane to now the Batman. But I want to get to know a little bit more about how you got here. How did you get started with like stunt work and stunt coordination, and what were your experiences like?
Well, I never wanted to be a stuntman or a stunt coordinator or a second unit director. That was never my goal, to be honest. My first passion was animation. I was very young watching cartoons, and I kind of figured out, oh, I can draw things on pages and kind of flip the pages and really kind of make images move, with my whatever I drew. And I'd never taken a class before. I was just watching how things were done. And then I started training in martial arts much later. And then my passion kind of shifted from the visual side of things to kind of the physical side of things. But also, when you train in martial arts, you're also going to be kind of if you're a fanatic about martial arts, you're also going to be a fanatic about martial arts movies. right? So, and action movies. So those kind of blend hand in hand in regards to the shaping of how, I ended up here. Um, but, I started training in martial arts and obviously still train to this day. It's something that I will probably do for the rest of my life. And then after college, I went to film school and I studied animation and communications and filmmaking, script writing, and I also took some acting classes back in the day, just so I can understand the kind of like the whole essence of the filmmaking process. And I'm still just, barely scratching the surface, but I've been very fortunate to be able to work with a lot of great filmmakers on my journey. But how it came to be, my first job is I started working at an ad agency right out of college, because that was the original path I thought I was going to go, to actually direct commercials. What happened was I didn't necessarily like it once I got in it, and so I decided to come back to my grandmaster and start training in martial arts again. And he said, well, why don't you start teaching for me? And then I just had a passion to train people in martial arts and do anything that had to do with martial arts. But the school where I trained, there was a lot of people who were coming in from an industry background, whether it be a producer or an actor or a musician, a writer, and they were constantly saying, oh, you should get in the business. And I really, at that time in my life, all I wanted to do was to train and fight and, be a martial arts instructor. And then one day a producer came in who basically was a producer of the live Power Ranger show that traveled around the world. And so one of my students who was an actor told me, I know this woman, she's a real deal. Whatever you do, don't say no to her. And I was like, I'm not sure. And then sure enough, the next thing you know, I said yes. I had my dad look at the contract. I didn't know anything about these types of contracts. He's like, no, this is a legitimate contract. She go. The very next day, I had to be on a plane. And next thing you know, I'm wearing a helmet and tights traveling around the world. So that was my first experience as a stunt performer. But I was a martial artist, so it kind of it was perfect for the part. I didn't audition for it. They literally just walked into my dojo, my grandmaster's dojo, where I was teaching, and goes, we need somebody, someone got hurt, can you fill in? And then it kind of just went from there. And then I just started learning about, the stunt side of filmmaking. And I had no idea what that was when I was first learning about filmmaking in college. And so I'm a very active person. And I thought this is a great way to learn about this side of filmmaking. And also, I knew how to storyboard already back then. I knew, so back before people were really kind of doing what is now stunt vises, I was shooting stuff and editing on VHS tapes and kind of just having fun playing around and editing sequences together. And then I realized that, having a film background plus a martial arts background kind of lent itself to designing action. But then I went beyond just fighting because I wanted to be the best stuntman I could be. So I also learned driving, skydiving, I'm scuba certified. I do wires and get lit on fire, and crashing cars, riding motorcycles, riding horses. So it was just the whole entire spectrum. And still there's a lot to learn, but there's a lot of things that I know now how to execute, primarily because I went through the stunt side. So yeah, that was my journey. And then once I got the opportunity to kind of expand stunt coordinating into really kind of designing action sequences
Mhm.
from the ground up, literally kind of taking the words off the page and elevating what the words are and really kind of turning it into something real. It went back to my roots of my desire of telling stories through visual images back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it kind of just kind of merged and kind of made things work really nicely, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds like so great. Like you're just going right back to your roots and what you were, passionate in. And
Yeah.
so now you're working on the Batman, and this interpretation of Batman really left a brutal first impression with the pummel at the end of the first trailer, which got fans like going crazy.
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
But Batman has definitely explored and taken away from so many different martial arts and fighting styles on screen, with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy taking on the Casey fighting choreography to Zack Snyder's going with like more of a brawler style combat. How did you personally reinvent this Batman's fighting style, and what were some inspirations behind that interpretation?
Well, that's a good question. I think, what we did, Matt and I did do is we kind of, talked about that particular fighting style of, the styles that have come before, and kind of looked at things. And I know Matt really wanted, and myself wanted to keep things super grounded, super real. So, we didn't want his style to be, perfect. We want it to be very human, having him put himself in a position where he makes mistakes. He's not, this is his second year putting on the suit, right? So he's definitely has more athletic ability. He doesn't have, superhero abilities. He doesn't run like Flash. He doesn't have lasers coming out of his eyes like Superman. He doesn't have these things, but he does have a very, very high threshold for pain. But it's not an inhuman amount of threshold for pain, primarily because the design of the suit also had a very integral part to the way that we were making this Batman different from other ones, because of the way that previous iterations of Batman, the design of the suit and the cowl and the cape were pretty restrictive. And so that kind of goes hand in hand as to how the fighting styles were different, because we really wanted him to be able to turn his head and see opponents from all different sides quicker, as opposed to turning on a turret from his hip.
You're pretty good at that.
Give me that.